龙、蛇、马、羊、猴、鸡、狗、猪。
And we have 12 of them. They are the rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and bull.
12年一个轮回，这其中隐藏了很多中国古人的智慧。
Actually, it is a cycle of 12 years which has included much Chinese wisdom.
今年是中国传统农历的牛年，牛是12生肖中第2个动物。
The year 2021 is the year of the ox in Chinese lunar calendar, and ox is the second among the 12 sun animals.
作为今年的吉祥物，牛象征着勤劳、力量、吃苦耐劳。
As the mascot of this year, the ox represents diligence, power, and earnestness.
在2000多年前的云南，它还象征着劳动力以及财富，是祥瑞的象征。
And you know, more than 2,000 years ago in the ancient Yunnan, it was also a symbol of labor force and wealth, as well as luck.
今天我向您推荐的这个展览就与中国的牛年有关。
Today, I highly recommend this exhibition to you, which is about the culture of the Year of the Ox in China.
展览名为“似水流年2021辛丑新春牛文化特展”。
The title of the exhibition is Time Flies, Ox Remains, which is the celebration for the Spring Festival of 2021, the Year of the Ox.
展览展出了云南省博物馆收藏的100多件与牛有关的文物和展品。
In this exhibition, we have exhibited more than 100 pieces of our collections, which are all closely related to the culture of the ox.
从自然、历史、文物、民俗等多个方面讲述了和牛有关的故事。
And we have introduced the story about the ox in the cultural, spiritual, and the natural aspects.
展品包括青铜器、石器、服饰、陶器、书画，以及牛角制成的实用器具和精美的工艺品等。
And this exhibition includes the bronzewares, stonewares, clothing and adornments, potteries, calligraphies, and paintings, as well as many beautiful artifacts made of the horn of the ox.
希望您可以从这个展览中欣赏我们收藏的精美文物，了解中国的牛文化。
I highly hope that you can appreciate our collections and have a better understanding of the culture of the ox in China.
下面就把时间交给我们的英文讲解员彭野，由他带领大家到展厅里看一看。
Now, our English docent Peng Ye will show you these exhibitions within it.
Hello everyone, I'm Peng Ye, the English docent of Yunnan Provincial Museum, and it's a pleasure to show you this exhibition. And firstly, behind me, as you can see, are a poster for this exhibition. And on the poster are the gods of door in our culture. We believe the gods of door will block the evils away and protect us, and the artist has incorporated the image of the ox into the gods actually and make it into a lovely edition. A genius, right? And before we enter the exhibition, I have to say that because the visitors are still required to wear the mask, so from now on, I will wear the mask and introduce the exhibition to you. Okay, it might be a little bit difficult to introduce, but I will try my best. Let's move on. And at the entrance, firstly, we have this official poster for this exhibition, and on it there are some important elements. Firstly, the title, 似水牛年, that means time flies. And actually, it's a little bit difficult to translate exactly into English. For my understanding, well, I think it means that although time flies, but the ox and the culture of the ox remains with us. And you can also see the image of the ox here and the wave. And the ox is ready to stride against the wave, and which can give you some idea of the ox in our mind. We believe the ox is loyal, strong, and hardworking. And here, if you move here, you can see part of the 12 zodiac animals. And here we can see the boar, the rat, the ox, and the tiger, and the rabbit, and the dragon. And actually, it's not only a way of recording time, it has also included much wisdom of the people, like the art of fortune telling. And here you can see that these are some of the usually used idioms in our language, including the Chinese character of 牛. I'll give you two examples. Like 牛气冲天, meaning that you have a flourishing year waiting for you. And if you want to understand it more literally, it means like your luck will come in a tide and is ready to charge into the air. And also here, up there, 扭转乾坤, meaning you are as strong as an ox to reverse the course of events. Interesting, right? And okay, now let's go on to the exhibition hall. This way, please. Actually, we have 3 sections in this exhibition introducing the ox and the ox culture from the natural, cultural, and spiritual senses, introducing the ox and the ox culture. And we not only hope that you can have a better understanding of the ox and the ox culture, but also to rethink our relationship with the ox. And here you can see this is the first case of the first section. So the first question is, what is the ox? Well, for the convenience of knowing, we have created many ways to give us a better understanding of the objects. Like we have many measurements for objects, like the specific numbers of the height, width, and length. Similarly, we have some generally used descriptions of the ox, like the ox are mammals with long and unforked horns. And as the horns are hard and have very beautiful textures, they have been used to make artifacts of various uses, which we will have a look at in the later part of our visit. And here, as you can see, is a model of the stomach of the ox. And I believe you know the famous 4 stomachs of the ox. As grazers, the ox can eat very fast, and the food will go from the mouth to the one stomach and stay there for some time, and then it will go back to the mouth, and the ox will swallow it to facilitate the assimilation, I believe. And actually, because this part introduces the ox in the natural senses, I think it's necessary to make some explanations. The 牛 we talk about here actually refers to, in biology, I mean, the bovine. The bovine are widespread and include many notable wild and domesticated species like the American bison, the Asian water buffalo, the yak, and the progenitor of today's domesticated cattle like the auroch. So it's interesting that the bovine include many species, and it's interesting that some species, seemingly different from the ox in their names, actually belong to the same species, like antelope in Chinese. Antelope, in Chinese we call it 羚羊, 牛羊 like the ox and the cattle, seeming to be totally different species, but actually they belong to the same. While others whose name include 牛 in Chinese are distant from each other, like rhinoceros, 犀牛. So you see, you heard it, 牛, but actually they belong to 2 different species. And the earliest bovine we can only see today in fossils, and the first fossils had been discovered in India and Indonesia. and their time can be traced back to as long as like 7 to 9 million years ago. That's almost the same time as the appearance of Homo sapiens. Okay, let's move on. Here, as you can see, are all the tools, from the stones to knives and material, and also the ropes and the DNA. And so why the tools? Because as human beings, we make much less than the ox, so we possibly can't hit them down with our bare hands. So we have created all these tools to help us in our handling of the relationship with the ox, hunting. And as you can see that the tools have developed from stone knives to like the knives made of the bronze and the ropes and the DNA. So what we want is maybe not just the beef, but the better and the best type of it. So through the reflection on the creation we may have some better understanding of ourselves and our relationship with the ox. Okay, and now we can move on to this part. And this is about the domestication. And actually, to tell you, you know what? We still don't have an exact time of the starting point of the domestication. Maybe it's for some accidental cases in which human beings had hunted back the ox and not ate them the day or the next few days, which had offered the time and opportunity for them to know the ox better and learned to live with them since then. Yeah, I know that the process must be much more complicated, but anyway, the human beings had chosen the ox as their buddy. And as you can see that the domestication has included much more than the ox, and some has had significant influence on us. And as you can see that the domestication of the corn, the apple, potato, chicken, dog, horse, and many of them, to name just a few. And on the other hand, actually the domestication is a mutual process. We have chosen the ox, for example, but we have also been chosen by them and have helped them to cover larger areas, at least, and help them succeed in the survival. And I don't know whether you have realized that the domestication has contributed a lot to the civilization. Just like as some people had more and more food and transferred the surplus to capital to gain more power and more preservable wealth and maybe human resources, and the accumulation of it had actually started the process of the civilization. Okay, here, let's move on. And here are the rock paintings. Why the rock paintings? Because as you can see here, you can recognize the image of the ox on those rock paintings. Those rock paintings are replicas and the original ones. Some are our collections and some are in other parts of the world. And through this early form of the art, the people have succeeded in recording their daily events or maybe sacrificial rituals on them and sent the messages to the future generations and also showed to us their hope to communicate with other tribes. Okay, let's move on. In this closet are all the teeth fossils. And why the teeth fossils? Because they can provide us a lot of information about the mammals because they are very important evidence. Like through the fossils, we can know their gender, age, and food type, and maybe the species scale. And I cannot tell the exact distinction between every one of them, but because I'm not a paleontologist, but I believe someone can. Okay, this way, please. And this is the end of the first section of this exhibition. And here, the curators want to say something about the biodiversity. Just to take the domestication, for example, in the process, we have selected those outstanding species which are like strong, reproductive, docile, and disease-resistant, or maybe some which can produce better milk and beef. But, it has disobeyed the rule of diversity in the nature, and which in the end will bring harm to ourselves. But good news is that we have realized this problem, and genes banks and reservation parks are being established, and some are playing their roles. Okay, if we move on and have a look at the boards on the wall, you can see the practical influence of the ox on us. Here you can see that this is the distribution of the ox in Yunnan province. Yunnan is located in the southwest of China, and you can see that it has many different species of the ox here. And here, now, if you have a look at this board, I know it's difficult for you to read the Chinese. I'll give you some example. Those are the interesting names of places in Yunnan province, like including the Chinese character of Niu, like the first one, Niu Jie, the street of the ox, and also Niu Bi Cun, the village of the ox nose, and Niu Tou Shan, the mountain of the ox head. So you can see that Niu, the ox, has come into our life in many aspects. And here are the usually used dialects of local people, including the Chinese character of Niu, and it has some implied meaning. And I've decided to ignore it because it's too difficult to translate into English. Okay. Here, we move on to the second section of this exhibition, introducing the ox in the cultural senses. And this is the most important part of the exhibition, to tell you the truth. And in this section, we introduce the ox in the cultural meanings, which are like the ox culture in the totem, the festivals, the sacrificial rituals, and maybe the paintings and calligraphies. And some collections are marvelous. Okay, this one, please. The first one is here. And I think you may have some difficulty in telling exactly what it is. And you can have some guess first. Have any idea? Well, the answer is it's a pillow of bronze. Hard to imagine, right? And who will sleep on a pillow like this? Well, firstly, the pillow like this one have been discovered from a tomb, not some real bed. And secondly, bronze wares, including this pillow, were, mostly owned by someone who was rich or maybe powerful or important in some other ways. So the bronze wares are more of symbols of wealth and social status. And you can see that there is an ox on each side. And these stand here mainly for the symbolic meaning of the wealth and social status too. Okay. Let's move on. And this piece beside it are a bronze drum. And bronze drum is originally musical instruments, and then they develop into ritual instruments because of the sound they produce. And if you have a close look, you can see some patterns on it. And also there are the image of the ox on the patterns. And those patterns and others have provided us much information about the daily life and important events at that time, like the farming, the sacrificial rituals, the weaving, the oars, and the hunting. Just they are like books we're reading. Okay, let's move on. As you can see that in the center of the second section is a curved case, and in it are all the bronze wares, and let's have a close look. And when we say the bronze wares of ancient Yunnan, we must mention the Dian Kingdom. The Dian Kingdom had ruled the area for hundreds of years, more than 2,000 years ago. And when we talk about the Dian Kingdom, well, we will instantly remember the cowrie containers like the one here, because they're so unique. And for practical use, the cowrie containers are containers for cowrie, literally. It's just that the cowries had come from the remote ancient India and were kept as wealth for the local people. And on the other hand, as you can see that the diorama on the lid of the cowrie container had provided us much information about the important events at that time. Considering the scarcity of the historical literatures and the documents, and the dioramas can be very important for us. And we can have a look at this one. On the lid, you can see that there is a tiger and 3 deer and an ox in the middle. And you can see that the ox has been disproportionately made larger than even the tiger. And actually, this practice is not uncommon for the local people to make what they cherish bigger. So as you can see that the ox is very important for them. Okay, let's move on, have a look at the one beside it. This is the canopy of an umbrella with an ox standing on it. And the umbrellas like this one should be held by figurines, both male and female, kneeling down and put at one end of the coffin, supposed to protect the dead. And actually, among the cultural relics we have discovered in Yunnan today, many oxen have been discovered and found. So why did people bring the ox into their tombs to live with them in the afterlife? Of course, because they are important and worthwhile. Okay, let's move on. And so you can see many oxen. And here, this one, it looks like another cowrie container, but actually it's not. It's a work box, and you can also see that the ox is standing on the lid. And instead of cowries, the winding plates, threads, and the needles have been found within the work box. Work boxes made of grass and bamboo were more common at that time. Okay, now let's move on. Here, I believe you will like this one. This is another cowrie container with the narrow lid, very beautifully made. And on the lid, that's our focus. And on the lid actually represents to us a battle between the tiger and the ox. And I think you can have a better point of view from this side. And the tiger is lying on the ground, yelling with the eyes and the mouth wide open, and his left hind leg has been injured by the horn of the ox. And the ox is trying to start another attack, and the tiger maybe are trying to avoid the attack. And in the middle, as you can see, there is a tree, and at the top of the tree stand two monkeys and two birds. Scared and excited, they stand at the very top of the tree to watch this battle, which strengthens the tension on the spot. And I believe this cowrie container had showed in a very representative way the style of the cowrie containers and all the bronze wares of the Dian Kingdom, which is artistically realistic. And if you turn back and have a look at this picture here, and you can see the star of the collection in our museum. And the original one now is in the exhibition hall on the second floor. And so you can have some appreciation of it through the pictures. And I think it may be a little bit difficult for you to tell what it is, like the pillow there, right? And actually, the artisans, I think he's very creative. He had cut away the back of the bigger ox and made it into a table. And of course, not a common table, but a table for the sacrifice used in the sacrificial rituals. And the local people are talking about for the understanding of this artifact, the local people are talking about the bigger ox protecting her child from the attack of the tiger. But from the scientific studies, the experts have found out that the bigger ox actually had come from India, and it's not like a mother, it's an ox. And also, the smaller one, we believe it's not a cub, because from our common sense, we know that the cub cannot have a horn as big as this one. So it's just an adult ox made into a smaller size. So if it's not about a lovely story, what does it tell us? And after years of studies, the experts in our museum believe it stands for the rebirth. Firstly, because it was used in a sacrificial ritual, and no matter what you pray in a sacrificial ritual, no matter it's like the harvest or the victory in the war, you all pray for the continuation of your tribe. And secondly, just for this artifact, this bigger ox might be attacked dead from the tiger, but there is new life coming out of it. Well, and there is the third theory, which is the accident theory, which tells that maybe it does not have so many meanings we have put on it. Maybe it's just an accident and make it into an art. Well, who knows? Okay, let's move on to the next part. And we have more bronze wares here. And on the three stanza or the buckles. So what are buckles? For the people in Dian Kingdom, they would like to wear rope, and they would have a belt around the waist, and the decorations in the middle are the buckles. And the buckles are delicately and vividly made, and I think you will have some experience of it. And firstly, you can have a look at this one. This is a buckle too. And actually, this buckle represents to us the preparation moment of a sacrificial ritual. And this group of people are doing the preparation work. And from the left to right, you can see that the first one is pulling the tail of the ox, and the one beside him is pressing on the back of the ox with his left hand and holding the rope of the ox with his right hand. And the one beside him seems to be stepped down on the ground. And can you see that there is one person hanging from the horn of the ox with his head downwards? And the last one on the right is tying the rope around the pillar to get the work done. So it's a very vivid and very creative representation, right? Okay, let's move on. Here is another buckle, a round buckle. Actually, round buckles are more common among the buckles. And this one has a ox head in addition. And I believe you have realized the green part, right? The green part are actually the very small pieces of turquoise inlaid on it. Just imagine that more than 2,000 years ago, the artisans had sliced a block of turquoise. Just imagine a block of rock or block of stone into such small pieces, and then set them piece by piece onto the buckle. And you know what? Till today, we still have no clear idea how they had to get the work done. Okay, let's move on. Here we can see some weapons with the inscriptions of the ox or maybe carved ox on it. And in some ethnic groups, they have the tradition of respecting or worshipping the ox in the festivals or sacrificial rituals. So they are still important in the local people's lives. Okay, let's move on. After the bronze wares, you can see some artifacts made by the ethnic groups. And some of them are even used today. Here you can see an ox-drawn cart. This is a complete set, and the ox and the cart are both delicately made and polished, and it can give you a direct view of the ox as a farming power. Okay, let's move on. As we have just mentioned agriculture, we can see some other tools used in it. And here are the blades of the plow. And the blades will be set at the end of the plow to turn the soil over across the field and before the seed are planted. And these, the triangle blades, are used by the Lahu ethnic group along Lancang River. And the design of them are said to be more effective. Okay, let's move on. And here we can see some other types of the plow blades. And here the U-shaped blades are mostly used by the Lithu ethnic minority group in Nujiang state. And a block of wood will be inserted into the blades to make it work. Okay, let's move on. And now we'll go into the third section of this exhibition, the introducing the ox in a spiritual aspects. And because this is a new year and we will carry on the spirit of the ox into this year, the year of the ox. And we will try to be as strong, loyal, and hardworking as the ox. And also to serve for the people, to forge ahead and to bear the hardships without too much complaint. And that is the spirit and the values we can learn from the ox. Okay, let's go into this last section of the exhibition. In this section, we will see some handicrafts made and used by the ethnic minority groups in Yunnan. As you know, Yunnan is rich in the ethnic groups and their cultures. There are 25 ethnic minority groups, and 15 of which can be found nowhere. And so why so rich cultures of ethnic groups? The reason can be traced back to tens of millions of years ago. Because of the rising of Himalaya mountains and the geological movement thereafter, the altitude difference within the province can be as much as 6,000 meters, which has led to the diversity in the climate, the land forms, the economies, and also the ethnic groups. And in spite of it, the ox can be found almost everywhere and has made themselves the friends of local people. And like just for example, the local women would like to wear something that has been made from the ox or looks like the ox or the horn of the ox instead of diamonds. Okay, let's move on and have a close look. And here, this one, this is a gunpowder flask used by the Yao minority group, and it is made of the horn of the ox. As you can see that the bottom has been sealed with the pine wood, and the plug is made of the bone animal. And the story of it is that in Yunnan, some ethnic groups live in the mountains, and hunting is still a way of living for them. And when they travel in a dense forest, the hard and waterproof gunpowder flask is the best choice for carrying the gunpowder. And also here, these are the lighters made of the horn of the ox, and these are the caskets also made of the horn of the ox. And here you can see a huge one. This one actually is the headwear of a bride, and it was made in the shape of the horn of the ox, so we can guess that the ox must be a beloved animal of the local people. And actually, because this one is made of silver, and some ethnic groups love silver, both because of the color of it and also because of the implied meaning. Okay, I think that's almost the end of this visit, and you can have a general view of the last part of this exhibition. And in the end, on the wall, we have some images of the ox from the rock paintings, actually. And I think some of them are very lovely. Yeah. So this is the end of the exhibition and also the end of today's visit. And thank you for your time. I hope you like this exhibition and the visit we have today. Also, best wishes for the year of the ox, and hope to see you again. Bye.